Yeah, that's the car we rode with, number 42. And indeed that car has moved up. Now we can see the two different Paynoses and one of the Works Vipers here. And another slow-mo shot. And the two Paynoses almost collecting each other. And the 55 car going really wide. And losing time. They really do look like Batmobiles, don't they? So there is the McLaren. That McLaren has now split the two factory Porsches. Already time to relax a little bit. And the number 8 car has had another spin into the gravel. This time it's the veteran Henri Pescarolo at the wheel. And La Grande Pesca, they call him. This is his 31st Le Mans. Just think about that. And this is how it happened down at Tête Rouge corner. Very bumpy entry into there. And a cloud of smoke, you can hardly see who it is. And the Courage may have to be towed out of there. That kitty litter can be quite grabbing at times. And there's fuel spillage in the pit of number 39, but the car wasn't delayed at all. And meanwhile, here's one of the leading factory Porsches trying to find a way past our camera car and the Paynos. And that's what it looks like from inside. Going through the second chicane, and then left, and then again up the gearbox. Of course, the Mulsanne Straight used to be the fastest part of the racetrack in years gone by, before those two chicanes were added. Whether they crest the rise, probably at somewhere in the region of 250 kilometers an hour. And this looks like an unscheduled stop for a Nissan. And work on the back of the car, and they're working on the oil cooler, and looks as if there's a big problem with the oil cooler, and that is being changed, and that's a problem for Nissan. So that was the fastest of the cars, Van der Poel. Here's Oliver Griard, who is sharing with Andretti, father and son. And the Martini Pescatori, Antonio Herman, he's a Brazilian amateur driver, is in the gravel. I think it is the latter of the three drivers. Now we can see exactly what happened. Well, I'm not sure what did happen there. Suddenly the car snaps sideways and spins off backwards. And the gravel flies. It may need a tow out of there. Sometimes you can get away with it. Well, the marshals are on hand. Huge number of marshals around here, and this is the number 46 Vista Jaguar. That's the car driven by Julian Bailey, Thomas Erdos and Mark Scaife, and a rear puncture. The other car already out. And meanwhile, Rocky Augusta and his Corvette, which had been going very well in GT2, with a problem. There is little Lilian Briner, who is driving a GT2 Porsche, former winner of the BPR GT2 series. Now more slow-mo shots, and that won't do the front of that Nissan any good at all. That's the number 22 car. That's the Van der Poel Patrese Aguri Suzuki machine. And keeping it going, ploughing across the gravel. And takes the short way round, but losing time. And just looking at the front of the car, it doesn't look as if there's too much damage. But sometimes those sort of incidents can bend the suspension. Well, a couple of Vipers and the Paynos, all three front engine cars, notice. And that Viper, the 62 car, leading GT2, Tommy Archer, the young French driver, Sohail Ayari, and also Marc Duez driving that. Marc Duez, the Belgian, who also is a very successful rally driver, one of motorsport's great all-rounders. Second in GT2, Jean-Pierre Jarret, we saw him before the start. Chirot and Leconte in their Porsche. Oh dear, and in the barrier it is the Lark McLaren. And that's obviously spun off, and just difficult to see how much damage is done. That car was running very strongly. It even got up to second place during the fuel stops and just nudges the Armco. Well, that shouldn't be a real problem. He's got to fire it up again and drive out of there. Marshall's just push him away. Obviously concerned down in the pits though. And I think that's Akihiko Nakaya who was at the wheel. And there now the two Porsches looking very impressive indeed, running absolutely nose to tail. We're 3 hours into the race now, and those two Porsches have moved ahead of the Jost Porsche with Johansson at the wheel. The extra pit stops starting to play. Now here's the man who spun it off. Well, looks in the mirror. You'll have to tell him what happened when he gets back to the pits. Time for a bit of barbecuing. Oh, certainly smells good. And here, the Stuck Wallet Boutsen car, as I said, now in the lead of the race. We are 3 hours in. Coming into the pits, the fastest of the McLarens, the number 42 car. And this time, Nelson Piquet, the 3 times world champion from Brazil, now partly retired, and he's climbing aboard. And Nelson now also developing a racetrack in Brazil, and he's even returned to his old love of Formula 3 cars, driving in a race the other day. And Nelson takes out the McLarens, which of course this year in their long tail form, quite a lot of other modifications. They're lighter than they were last year. They now have a sequential gearbox, altogether more of a racing car. And you see that one Nissan still in the pits with that oil cooler problems, and reports that the oil coolers are literally falling apart. And in fact all 3 Nissans in, so a big problem for Nissan. There's some of the work going on with the oil coolers. Apparently some late modification has meant that the oil coolers have had to be repositioned. Because of that, they're getting more heat, and that heat is literally unmelting the solder on them. So here is the Achilles heel of the Nissan, and obviously this is a long-term program. They didn't expect to win in the first year. They learn about problems like this, and then they come back next year, and there's no question of doubt at all that Nissan are taking Le Mans very seriously indeed. Cars have run very strongly. They're superbly prepared, superbly designed. And of course TWR marshalling the group very well indeed. But there is this Achilles heel at the moment, and it appears that all 3 cars have got exactly the same problem. Oh, big moment here for the 67 Saleen Mustang. Nice to see Mustangs back after what, 20 odd years. Price Cobb, Steve Saleen, Carlos Palau car. And going for a big spin, and that left a lot of gravel on the track. You have to be so careful at Le Mans. Gravel is often thrown up, get offline, and that could also pitch you off. The 63 Viper, that's the older version. Justin Bell, the son of 5 times winner Derek Bell, at the wheel of that particular car. Well, one Nissan is able to get back into the race, but they've dropped right back down into the 30s. And just seeing what's going on here at the Nissan chicane, and it looks like a Conrad Porsche having a very big moment indeed. Franz Conrad, who shares that car with Mauro Baldi, and also they brought in the British driver Robert Nern, a big break for him. Robert, whose father actually constructs the Caterham 7 cars, of which so many come down to Le Mans. It's very interesting all around the car parks, these groups of various enthusiasts clubbing together, enjoying the atmosphere, the food, but not too much sun at this year's Le Mans. It's been grey and overcast most of the time. Oh, and what's this? A great big spin under the Dunlop Bridge. This is the difficult section, and then the run down into Tete Rouge, and the sole remaining Newcastle United football team back car gets away with that, but very lucky indeed. Just trying to see, I think it's Tommy Erdos, the Brazilian, driving. More glowing brakes, the race wearing on into the 5th hour.